all organized. Okay, hello everybody. Thank you so much for joining our Blackberry Virtual Job Fair. This is the first one that we have had, and we are so excited that we're bringing you a Recruiters Tell All session today. We've had over 1,500 people register for this event, and we can see lots of you have joined us. So for today, for the chat features, we'd like to ask if you can ask your questions in the Q&A box, and then we will try to get to those at the end of the session, as we will be covering quite a bit of content throughout. And hopefully we can answer most of your questions. So we hope that you guys all learn lots from this event today, and if you do have any unanswered questions, that we have the opportunity to get to those at the end of the event. And then you will also have the opportunity with the survey that we'll be firing out following the event to ask any questions that maybe did not get answered. And if you would like to add us on LinkedIn, we are open to this. Just make sure when you're requesting an ad that you mention where you connected with us, so at this session today, so we can see who those connections are. So we're going to go ahead and get started with a corporate overview just very quickly, and then we'll dive right into the recruitment information. So before we begin, so we would like to share where we've got to today and where we are and where we're going. So when the smartphone market took over 5 to 10 years ago, the initial reaction from enterprises was that employees' personal mobile devices were not enterprise grade and therefore not suitable for businesses. So however, a pivotal shift occurred as the next generation of mobile devices arrived, and employees wanted to be productive by adopting their devices for enterprise workflows. With this revolution, enterprises transitioned from dictating what you can or cannot use for work to being more flexible and allowing different devices to enter the corporate environment. BlackBerry is seeing a similar evolution to this today, but it's now going beyond smartphones. It's expanded to things like smart speakers, watches, tablets, and drones with cameras or other forms of remote sensoring. Be it on the commercial side or enterprise technologies such as connected cars, where you can see us in over 150 million cars today, for example. In current IoT, Internet of Things research, it has been projected that there will be 75 billion new types of connected things by 2025. This is an expanding market, not only from a volume standpoint, but also from spending standpoint. The research has projected over $3 trillion of spending, which translates to 11 trillion US dollars of business value through this Internet of Things digital transformation. So BlackBerry is always focused on innovation. We created brand new types of applications to allow our employees, partners, and customers to be productive and do business in ways that we never envisioned before we got these new devices. So the businesses and digital transformation will continue to shift, and this is what BlackBerry's customers rely on us to do. So now we have a video that I'm going to share with you, and hopefully the audio comes through. I apologize if there's any technical difficulties. There's just a lot of you on the call today, so hopefully it pans out.
You're about to be overwhelmed. In the last 12 months alone, over 100 million new pieces of malware were released, costing businesses over $1.5 trillion. Billions of mobile and IoT endpoints were added to corporate networks, dramatically increasing your attack surface. Spending on endpoint security software is doubling every 3 years, yet there's still a global shortage of over 4 million cybersecurity workers. 79% of your employees admit to working around your security policies to get their job done. And the overwhelming number of security vendors, products, and alerts is making you less secure, not more. The fact is, your current security solution is simply not built to withstand the modern threat landscape. At BlackBerry, we take a different approach. We use machine intelligence to complement human intelligence, redefining the roadmap for how tomorrow's endpoints are built, secured, managed, and communicate in new and innovative ways. Our safety and security software is embedded in over 500 million endpoints. We've developed artificially intelligent security solutions that work with human instincts, not against them. Built on the concept of zero trust and powered by machine learning, the more you use our software, the smarter it gets. Seamless endpoint management ensures full control over corporate assets. BlackBerry endpoints not only deliver the highest grade of secure communications, they also enable real-time mass communications in times of crisis. These are extraordinary times, but we have never been ordinary. For 3 decades, BlackBerry has been there by your side, through good times and bad, protecting and securing you against whatever challenges come your way. As your business expands to realize exciting new possibilities, know that BlackBerry can be trusted to ensure your safety, security, and privacy, both now and in the future. BlackBerry, intelligent security everywhere.
Okay, sorry about that if it was choppy at all, but hopefully you guys got to view the content there. We will see if we can send out a link to the video after the event. It's also found on our BlackBerry YouTube page if you're curious. So, just as we've had a couple more hundred people join the event, we would like to mention if you do have any questions, we will try to get to those at the end of our session. So once we're finished sharing all of the content, maybe we'll be answering some of your questions throughout. But if you do have any further questions afterwards, we'd like you to ask them in the Q&A function on the side of your event panel. So, gonna jump in hopefully now to the recruitment section. So, as we begin, we'd like to introduce our team. So, we're the campus programs team who you can see on video today. My name is Jasmine. I'm a talent acquisition specialist for university and colleges, so campus. And I've been working with Blackberry for 3 years full time. However, I've also worked there as a student twice before, so I actually started with Blackberry in 2015, and I worked on the HR operations team, and now I'm working on the campus recruitment side. Now I'll pass it to Rachel.
Hi everyone, my name is Rachel. I am a talent acquisition coordinator on the campus team. I also started as a student. I did 2 terms on the HR operations team, and then I got converted full-time at the beginning of January 2019. By the way, just so you know, I'm hiring for software developer student roles as well as some embedded systems for our QNX platform.
All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Maddie. I am the talent acquisition lead on the campus programs team. I've been at Blackberry just over 2 years on the campus programs team. Before that, I was working in IT recruitment, and then before that, industrial recruitment. So very excited to have you all join us today, and hopefully we can provide you some info. For student positions, I'm hiring a lot for our customer support team. So customer-facing roles, both technical and non-technical, as well as some machine learning developer positions and data science students.
Hello everyone, my name is Alexis Illis. I'm a recruitment coordination student here at Blackberry. This is my second co-op term here. So I typically hire for secure communications, product engineering, sales, legal, and finance.
All right, thanks everybody. And I forgot to mention what I'm hiring for. I'm also hiring for networking, automation, software developers, and then I also have 2 cool positions in our garage working on the self-driving car sensor technology. So lots of IT and software development opportunities that I will be supporting this term if you're interested in those. We also have our social media. So on Instagram, you can find us at Blackberry Student Life. And this is where we post all updates, event information, when our jobs are live, if we're still recruiting for some maybe niche roles, things like that. You can find our information here, as well as get some insight into what our students are doing during their terms with us, or student spotlight, so you can hear a little bit from the students as we have them provide content to our social media as well. And this slide is illustrating generally which roles we are hiring for every 4 months. So we hire fall, winter, and summer, and in areas that are technical and non-technical. So on the business side, finance, accounting, marketing, things like that, or software development, networking, automation, cybersecurity, and those items as well. So now I'd like to introduce our professional recruitment team as well, just in case we have anybody on the call today who's not a current student, but maybe has just graduated, looking for a new graduate opportunity. We have our professional recruiters who handle the full-time opportunities. So I'd like to hand it over to Sarika. Would like to introduce yourself?
Hi, very good afternoon to everyone. My name is Sarika. I'm working as a recruitment manager for Canadian Proctor recruitment team. And I report to Tom, who is going to be next presenter. I have over 12 years of professional recruitment experience. I'm with Blackberry for almost more than 3 years. I'm based out of Waterloo. I'm handling full-time recruitment for human resource, finance, CIO, Salesforce Spark, and ad hoc group. Over to Tom.
Thank you, Sarika. My name is Tom Tievendale, Senior Manager of Talent Acquisition for Canada. I got about 20 years of recruitment experience, and the last 4 years spent with Blackberry. I'm based out of Ottawa, and I manage the Canadian recruitment team as well as full-cycle recruitment for a number of different groups, primarily technical, product and development engineering, including the QNX group, Spark, Smart, and ad hoc groups, primarily in Canada. And some of the types of positions that we're typically hiring for. Want to just move to the next slide?
There you go.
Thank you. So the professional hiring, again, it's a number of different areas, mostly technical, a lot of embedded, software developers, kernel developers. Most of the technical positions are engineering type positions, all based around C development for the most part. And of course, there's all sorts of product managers, full stack developers, Java, project managers, which are customer-facing project managers for the most part. There's some automation developers, security specialists, Salesforce administrators and developers, and other security-related types of positions that we recruit for. The professional hiring could be anywhere from a couple of years of experience or all the way up. Certainly, we love to bring on board former co-op students who have done 2-3 terms with us. Those are ideal. They know the company, they know the systems, and they generally fit in quite well. So if you've got a number of co-op terms, or if you're going to be graduating soon, by all means, check out the website and reach out to us directly if there's something on there which you fit for. Thank you. Back to you, Jasmine.
Thanks so much, everyone. So now what we're going to do is dive right into all things recruitment. So we're going to begin with the networking session, which is so important for helping you with your job search and career goals. And before you begin networking, you should always be thinking about a few things. So think about who you want to meet, what you want to say about yourself, and what you want to get to know from other people. What kind of jobs are you looking for? What skills and experience have you prepared that will allow you to fulfill the duties of those jobs? Are you focused on a particular industry? If so, what is it? Do you want to find a job at a particular company? And do you want to look for jobs in one local area, or are you open to several? So those are important to ask yourself before you start networking, so you know who to network with and where to navigate yourself towards. So I'm going to open it up as a panel for this section for our professional recruitment team and Maddie, who's going to share. And the first question I'd like to ask are, what are the benefits to networking, and why do you think it's so important? Anybody can jump in.
Okay. I can start briefly. And I apologize, I'm in the middle of a sunbeam that I can't get out of. But I think that networking is is the most important thing that you will do to lock down your career job. Whether that's face-to-face networking or networking through LinkedIn or social media or even these virtual events, it's all about meeting the right people and get your foot in the door anywhere. So that's, I think, the biggest benefit of networking is you're meeting people that may be hiring, may be able to get your resume in front of somebody who is hiring, or may be able to just give you good advice and mentor you along the way while you find, until you find that job that you're looking for.
And just to add to that, it's Tom Tebow here. When you are networking, keep in mind that the people that you're meeting with may not be the people that are going to hire you today or tomorrow. They could be the people that hire you a year down the road, 2 years down the road. Certainly, having been in the industry for as long as I have, I'm hiring people that I first met a year, 2, 3, 5 years ago, or less than 5 years ago, or hired them 5 years ago. So it's more of the long game when you're networking. It's not always about, can this person help me out now? So think big picture.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you are networking, who are some of the key contacts to network with? So if I'm starting out, who should I be looking for to reach out with and build my network with?
Hi, this is Rika. I suggest all the time is not just with the human resource person or recruiter. You should also, suppose if you're targeting any company, you should try to network with maybe a developer or anyone who is working at Blackberry and has a similar skill. What I've seen, people they start networking when they look for a job, but I suggest all the time start recruiting or start networking even when you're not open for a role, because that will help you, and that person can help you when there will be job in the future. So yes, networking is with anyone who has a relevant skill within the company or who's like responsible for hiring or managing HR.
Yeah, I find a lot of times people will add me when they're looking, and that's great. Like that's fine, but it's kind of refreshing every once in a while when you get somebody who adds you, just says, "Hey, not looking for a job now, but wanted to connect," and then they kind of just stay in touch over the course of our connection and always kind of check in. Those are people that's what Tom mentioned about playing the long game, but it's always kind of refreshing and like they didn't just add me because they need something. It's always kind of nice to just have those connections, and it goes both ways too. Like I'm networking for me as well, so keep that in mind when you're adding connections. I would say on LinkedIn as well too.
Yeah, and just to add on that as well, many of you are still current students, reaching out to other classmates, teachers, professors, academic advisors, um, anybody like that who has a large network themselves are also really key contacts to keep close connections with and stay in touch, as they should know of a lot of opportunities that are coming up. Okay, so this next question. So, when it comes to in-person networking events, what do you look for, and what makes someone stand out?
I look for the first thing I look for is I like when people come up to talk to me at an event and kind of they've got their pitch ready. You know, they've got that elevator pitch, the 30-second sales pitch where they tell me a little bit about who they are, what they're looking for, and it always helps when there's like a passion piece in there. So like the why. Why do you want to work there? Or why is software development so important to you? Or why is it finance that you chose to work into? So just really adding something that makes you stand out when you're talking to me, because it may just be the type of learner I am, but when I'm going back and looking at resumes, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the girl who did this, this, and this. So it's really important to practice that pitch, give all the information that you need to the recruiter as to what you're looking for, but also add a wow factor in there that's going to stand out to me when I take those resumes back to the office and start reviewing.
Big thing for me is, when somebody actually does their homework and, actually knows what the company does, has taken the time to review the openings that are posted, has a full understanding of the typical skill sets that you would look for, and, if they have those skills that we're looking for, discuss with the person you're speaking with at the event.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great addition. I think we all, when we were chatting about this before, we all agreed that research piece is key, especially at job fairs or in these events now. And for Blackberry, it's knowing that we're more than just about the Blackberry phone now, right? And kind of doing the research. What is Blackberry up to today, and being able to chat about us with that too.
Mm-hmm. And I see in the chat here too, I love that you guys are sharing ideas with each other as well. We see a lot of people mentioning asking appropriate questions or asking questions that are really tied to the role. That does really show that you've done that research and that you're eager to learn more about it so you can be a better candidate. Tarika, did you have anything to add for that one, or should I move to the next question?
Yeah, I agree with Maddie and Tom. So I like the research piece. What I've seen when I go to like any networking event, people they come to us and they ask us, "What kind of roles are you hiring for?" Again, we waste lots of time telling them. I prefer if they do a good research. Suppose if I'm hiring for any HR role, they should come for 5 minutes and tell, "Hey, I heard that you're hiring for HR operation role, and this is a skill that I can offer." So I agree all the time. Yes, research is very important before you come to any booth or go to any networking session.
Mm-hmm. And I see someone asked if the research should be job specific or about the company, and I think the answer to that is both. what you can do to learn more about the job-specific questions that you may have, or come more prepared with that, is using that network. So if you know somebody that either has worked at Blackberry in HR, for example, then maybe try reaching out to them and see if you can get some questions answered before you go to a networking event, or start reaching out to somebody on LinkedIn. So, any tips for networking virtually? That is my next question. So since we have moved to a world where we're working remotely and we're seeing more online events and opportunities, what are some ways to network online, and how do you really stand out in that sense in a virtual world?
I think the first thing that came to mind when you said that is obviously networking on LinkedIn. And I think my biggest piece of advice would be, when it comes to LinkedIn, before you start adding anybody, make sure your profile's up to date. Make sure you have a photo. It just makes you more personable. I'm talking to a person, not some anonymous account. Make sure you have a photo. Make sure you've got all your info filled out, because chances are when you're adding me, that's when I'm going to go click and check out what you've done. So be prepared in that moment that that's when the recruiter or the connection is going to go look at your profile to see what you've done. So have it ready, and then when you go to send that invite and start networking, don't just blind send your request. Type a little note. Tell me why you're adding me. Tell me where we met. Something like that, just so I know why we're connecting. Give me some context. And I do the same thing. The only time I don't do that is when, let's say, Jasmine and I sit beside each other at work, and I'm just going to quickly add her because we're beside each other. But apart from that, always put a message.
Also, when you're reaching out to people on LinkedIn, whether it be some HR function or recruiting function, again, it goes back to networking. It's do your research. I lose track of how many emails or contacts I get on LinkedIn. They're asking me to look at their profile and tell them if I have a job for them. I do not answer those emails. Somebody is just, has not taken any time to review the website, to look at the openings that we have, or to even get an understanding as to what we do. So that is not networking. That is just, spamming out emails to try and get a response. Too busy for that. So make sure that when you are putting an email out or reaching out, you've done a bit of research, you know the types of positions you're looking for, and you can speak to those. So those are key.
Yeah, and I fully agree with Tom on that one. That is not networking, and that's not how you're going to build that organic network. I see somebody talking about how do you connect organically on LinkedIn, and that is kind of how not to. And part of doing that research is don't ask questions that you can easily find the answers to yourself. Save the questions for like the key pieces about the job that you're interested in knowing, because a simple search on a job board can tell you what we're hiring for, or what jobs we have for you, but you know best what you're looking for and what type of job you're after. So tell us that.
Sarika, do you have anything to add as well?
Yes, I agree with Maddie and Tom. Be very specific why you would like to contact with anyone. And other thing, what I observed, like lots of people, they don't apply to the role directly. They approach recruiter. So I suggest all the time you should first apply and then approach a recruiter or any rated HR person, and be very specific. Why do you think like you stand out, and what is your USP? Why you feel like this is the best role for you? So that's something I suggest all the time. And it's not just connecting with recruiter. I suggest if you see something like a hiring manager, developers, just try to get connected to them. But again, my suggestion all the time will be, again, be specific. Why you'd like to get connected is not just I want to chat with you. This is something I get all the time. So it should be specific. Why you'd like to chat with me? What is your purpose? Because in that way I can understand your requirement correctly before we discuss or help you with your career job or job search.
Mm-hmm.
That's all from my side.
Yeah, thank you. No, that's great. And I think too, in being specific, applying for the job before reaching out is so important because then we can review your full application, all the questions that we would have to ask you. You've already answered them in your application. So it gives us that step to move forward and get that conversation going. And just for everybody asking, all of our job postings are posted on our website. It's just blackberry.com/careers under student opportunities or professional opportunities. And that's where you can search through all of them to look at what we are looking for. And you can also use keywords. So if there's any tools or anything like that that you're interested in using during your term, then you can search that and it'll pull it up from the job descriptions. But we will get into that in the next section here. So I'd like it if Alexis, so I'm going to hand this over to you once I get this slide up. So for applying for jobs, Alexis, can you give us an overview of how you would apply for jobs for a campus applicant?
Yeah, for sure. So when you're applying to student positions at Blackberry, we always recommend to do it earlier than later. So this would mean applying at the beginning of each term, which is 4 months before the term you'd be working. So for example, September for the winter term, and then January and May for the other two. You can apply to as many roles as you'd like, but be strategic. So the recruiters will see your name on each job application and can see how many you apply to, so it's best to apply with a higher quality of application than quantity. With this, it's important to tailor your resume specific to the job you're interested in by highlighting how your skills align with the job description. If you don't fully understand the role, you can try reaching out to a mutual connection or a recruiter to try and get a better idea before putting your application together. You should also be tailoring your application to align with the company's values to show that you've done your research and can show how you would fit. Also, when preparing your application documents, make sure to assign appropriate titles and remove any comments from reviews. So typically, saving your files as PDFs will help keep the formatting in line with what you've prepared as well. And lastly, do note it is more important to follow up after interviews rather than after applying. When applying to a company with a lot of roles, you generally would be contacted if selected for an interview.
Awesome, thank you. And Sarika and Tom, are one of you able to go over the process for applying to professional or postgraduate jobs at Blackberry?
I can speak to that.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, using the same listing here, when to do it. Whenever the position is posted, that's when you should be applying to it. Generally, if somebody's graduating perhaps in 2-3 months or something like that, still go apply to it because the process sometimes can be a little bit drawn out with regards to the interview, the assignments and things like that. Tend to drag it out a little bit. How many roles to apply to? Again, like was mentioned previous, it's better about quality over quantity. I do see, people applying to positions and they'll apply to 10, 12 positions, most of them of which they are just not qualified for. They just do not have the experience to do them. So it gets a little frustrating when you're looking at the same people over and over again for positions that don't fit with. So by all means, apply to the ones that you can fit with, and ensure that your resume is tailored for those particular positions. Again, do your research, make sure that you're going about it. The resume speaks to what it is that we're doing here. And following up sometimes is difficult. Once we typically engage with a candidate, it's easier to follow up because then we'll have each other's email addresses and things like that. But we certainly do our best to follow up.
Thank you. And I just see that someone has asked if roles for summer 2021 have been released. So just again, for campus or student roles, we do post those 4 months in advance. So if you have a winter co-op coming up, for example, we're posting them now. So we would post them in September, May, and January is when our roles will go live. And then we'd request that you just apply sooner than later for those roles as well. Okay. And for the building your resume section, I'm going to hand this over to Rachel.
Okay, so I'm going to go through this next 3 slides from our student perspective, and then I'm going to hand it over to Tom and Sarika to see if there's any differences or any additional comments they want to add about what they look for in resumes. So for resume building, we're just going to give you some tips and tricks about what we look for and what we have seen as common mistakes. So for building your resume, you're going to want to make sure you have a header. Make sure it's not too big. Include all your emails and your phone numbers. Make sure they are up to date and that they work. Make sure that you have your LinkedIn or your GitHub listed up there because managers do like to click on those sometimes. Don't take up too much valuable space with large font. Make sure your name is big enough to read, but this is the most valuable part of your resume, so make sure it's not too big. For salutation, if you're personalizing your resume or your cover letter, just make sure that the name of the company is correct throughout your entire resume and your cover letter, and do make sure that it is spelled correctly. Always have a peer review. So make sure that there's no spelling or formatting mistakes in your resume, especially if your job is looking for excellent communication skills and attention to detail. This is generally how we're going to judge that before the actual interview section. So again, use your space wisely. The top third of your resume is your sales pitch or your hook for the recruiters. For students, we would say the length of your resume shouldn't go over 2 pages. That might be different for professionals, but for students, make sure not to go over 2 pages. And then again, just keeping the consistency and formatting throughout your entire document, and maybe keeping the formatting the same between your resume and your cover letter as well. And then for white space, make sure there's not too much white space. It means it's lacking content or it's not like visually appealing. So maybe if you have it spread out between 2 pages, try to shorten it to 1 page if that's your case. There's also the case of too much on 1 page. So for example, what's on the slide right now, that's an example of too much going on 1 page. If you have this happening, then maybe make it into 2 pages. Okay, so for formatting, make sure you use the correct tense. So if it's a past job, make sure you're using past tense like developed or innovated. And then if it's your current job, just use the present tense. Lead with power words. So words like managed or coordinated or executed, those are power words, and you're going to want to lead each statement with one of those. Results-oriented points are extremely important. So if you can put numbers on it and we can see your accomplishments that way, it's easy for us to see how you've measured your accomplishments. For example, if you are in a finance group, you can say like increased efficiency by so much %, or you can put numbers in that section. For any type of software development or technology stuff, we can see, we want to see your technological skills that you've used here. So coding languages or software programs that you've used. Make sure not to make your points too wordy. So keeping the key details there, again, the programs used, numbers, technologies used. And make sure you stand out from the crowd. So if you have a tailored resume that your school put through, try to make it stand out a bit by not using the same content or the same wording and projects as other students. Think about what experience that you do have that will make your resume stand out from your classmates. So this can include any hobbies that you have, interests, clubs that you were a part of, and especially any personal projects that you've worked on. Okay, so this is just common mistakes that we've found as recruiters. So just mentioning again, because it's so important, the top third of your resume is the absolute most important part. It's how you're going to hook the recruiter. So essentially, the recruiter is going to read your resume and decide if they'll continue to read your resume by looking at this top third section. It's your biggest sales points, and top candidates put their skills and qualifications up here and help us continue to read by seeing what we need right off the bat. So again, just make sure the font is not overly large in the front or at the beginning. Just making sure links are up to date. If you don't have your LinkedIn added on your resume, definitely add it. It's a great way to personalize it and also a great way to just expand on your skill set. Again, with the spacing, just make sure your margins aren't too big or too small. The skills section, this is an extremely important section. It should be in the top third section. And a really important thing to note is that if you're going to list a skill here in this section, make sure to list it again in your resume. So if you list Java, for example, you can see in the technical skills there, make sure in your education or your experience section or your personal project section that you're listing where you've used this skill. Also note that anything you put on your resume is fair game for an interview question, so make sure you at least know the basics of it. If you've only ever heard of it or think you only know a couple things about it, it may not be best to put on your resume because managers will most likely ask you about it. And then again, just making sure to keep the results mentioned, again, just putting numbers or outcomes or softwares used. And yeah, Tom, Sarika, is there anything you want to add or anything that's different for professional resumes?
I think, no, mostly the same as what we're looking for. The size restriction that you mentioned, it's not quite as important at the professional level because they've obviously got more experience that they would want to highlight in the resume. So more than 2 is fine for us. The other information that you mentioned about skills, mentioning the skills on the resume and the technical skills and things like that, that's key. If you keep in mind that the people that are reviewing the resumes, now whether it's with Blackberry or whether it's with another company you're applying to, the first set of eyes on this particular resume, they may not be technical people, okay? So they cannot fully understand what you're saying sometimes because it doesn't spell it out. So if you do have the experience with the Java, the C++, the C, whatever it is that the job requires, make sure that you put it into the resume in the skills section and also utilize it throughout the resume where you have performed those tasks. Those are the key things that I would probably add to that. The other thing would be if you have any kind of related hobbies, skills, clubs, whether it be building robots, which would be very relevant to the work that we're doing in Ottawa with the autonomous drive and the operating system QNX. Things like that would be great to put on the resume. Any other kind of math clubs or physics clubs or anything like that, again, important to put on the resume. It shows that, to me anyway, it shows that the individual has an interest or a passion for those, for the work, right? And they're doing it in their spare time. So things like that go over well with me.
I actually just wanted to add something too. I did see a question earlier about how a student or somebody that doesn't have a ton of experience can stand out. And that's where, like Tom was saying, put your personal projects, your hobbies, any types of clubs that you've been in where you've kind of gained those skills that we're looking for, maybe in a different way than you would have gained them in experience, but definitely still showcasing. Like your personal projects can showcase your skills in either Excel building or software development, and then your clubs can show how you have great communication skills or leadership skills. So just that kind of stuff will definitely help you stand out if you don't necessarily have a ton of experience to back it up.
I see someone's asking how many personal projects would you say is enough? What are your thoughts on this?
I think if you have experience, the experience will definitely kind of trump the personal projects, but personal projects are great to show that you're actually passionate about something. So depending on how long your resume is at the time, maybe 2 to 3 maximum.
Is that the same for you as well, Tom?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, again, if you're a new grad, you've got a limited number of co-op terms. If you do have co-op terms, it's always good to show it. Whether it's 2, 3, 4, if that is the bulk of your experience, it's all very relevant. Absolutely, add as many as you can if you do have the experience, because it will count for something if you don't have all of the required experience.
Mm-hmm. And I see someone asked about certificates or courses that they've taken online and if they should be including those on their resume. And I think if it is going to support your interests and show that passion piece again, it does not hurt to add it as long as you have enough space on your resume and it's not taking away from anything else. It does show that you're interested in developing yourself outside of your courses within your education.
Absolutely.
And Jasmine, I'm just going to add on to that too. I think, especially for a student resume or new grad resume, add experience. Even if the work that you have done is not relevant to the job you're applying for, there's always transferable skills that you're learning on every job you do to take with you to a new job. So don't discount any work experience that you've done. If you were working in retail or in food or serving or anything like that, we want to see it because that shows that you're customer facing, that you have some of those soft skills that we're looking for that you're going to be able to take with you from that environment and incorporate into a corporate environment. So especially if you don't have a ton of relevant work experience to that job, it's not that the work experience you have is not relevant. So please include that on your resume if you're trying to if you have room to put it without going over, add that as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there's lots of questions coming in.
Yeah, there's some really good questions in here.
Yeah, so just going off of the formatting for resumes still, if you do have projects or samples of your work that you do want to show, link them in a separate link or attach a separate document other than don't try to fit them onto your resume. You can probably just provide a quick, maybe 1-point summary if you're putting them in a projects or portfolio section, but it's better to link it so then the hiring manager can go and browse through the content that you're trying to share there as well, if you have a personal website or GitHub or anything like that. And then I saw a question around the fact that most candidates will be putting skills on their resume that are included in the job description. 2 things on this. Just make sure if you are doing that because you're tailoring your resume to fit, just make sure that you are confident in those skills because they will be asking you those questions to assess if you have those skills in the interviews. And do note as well, you can apply to roles if you have like 3 to 5 of the main skills that you believe that they'd be using on the job. Feel free to apply to those roles because they are a learning experience as well. So we will be training you on the job. And you don't need to check every box of the job description. That's just like the wish list. So just calling that out as well. Now, should we dive into some questions? Have you guys seen any that you?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I have one here. I was just actually going to type the answer, so I'll say it out loud. Do you recommend putting a photo on the resume? And I think I can speak for all of us when the answer is no. Please don't put a photo on the resume. We want the work that you've done to speak for you.
Mm-hmm. I saw a question about cover letters. Do we want to talk about those?
Yeah.
I always call cover letters the most debated topic in recruitment. So my team's like, yep, here she goes again.
Well, let's see. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to say my opinion on cover letters is maybe because I have a business student background is I think cover letter is a great way to put in the extra effort, show how interested you are in this position, another way to highlight and talk about some skills, but they're not always necessary. It kind of depends on the role you're applying to, but in my opinion, I am a yes for cover letters. I like them. I think they're a great way to show off your skills. What do you guys think?
I am the exact opposite. I think if you have hooked me in your resume, so first, if you're going to work on anything, make sure your resume is good, because I'm not going to read a cover letter unless I've been hooked in a resume. So I think it's first and foremost important to work on that resume and get the hook in. I don't think cover letters are valuable when they just regurgitate what you said on your resume. It's got to be a value add. So dive deeper into something that's on your resume, but don't just restate what you've already put in bullet points on your resume. But also be careful. The cover letter is only make it if you're making ones for a specific job. It's the place that people make the most mistakes too. They forget to change who they're sending it to. We get jobs for banks and other companies. So just really be mindful if you are using a cover letter that you're tweaking it for every single employer and really spending time to personalize it for every job. Is my opinion.
Yeah. Hi, this is Sarita. Yeah, I prefer saying a cover letter. I think is a kind of selling tool. Like my background is more on the technical side. Sometimes I feel it's pretty challenging to show your passion on your resume. And probably I suggest like cover letter might be additional to where, but again, it should be like very specific, and you should say like within 5 minutes any recruiter when they're reading or hiring manager, they can try to understand what exactly your passion is, how you have worked. So I prefer saying cover letter, but again, it should be very specific why you think you are the best person for the role.
And I see a question here about if you don't have the experience, how do you kind of show that you would still be a good fit for this role? And I think the cover letter can help you out there in a way where you can write about it in the cover letter. So say, for example, Java, maybe you're not too familiar with it, but you're learning about it right now. Within your cover letter, obviously highlight your skills that you're very confident in, but you can also say, I noticed that you will be working with Java. I've actually taken a course right now that I'm going to complete on XYZ date, and I'm excited to learn more tools, and I hope that I can, fulfill this in the role. Like showing that you're interested in it and that you've acknowledged that it is in the job posting, but maybe you're not totally comfortable yet, does just show a little bit of your willingness to learn, and that's how people can see that throughout the cover letter. Okay, let's go to some more questions.
I see a couple questions that have come in just on the logistics of our positions. So all of our student positions at Blackberry are full-time positions. We unfortunately don't do part-time here. In terms of new grad opportunities, we hire new grads or professionals on an as-needed basis. We don't have a formal new grad program, so there isn't a specific time that we will be hiring new grads. It's just as the business requires roles, we post for them. So there isn't a formal cycle for new grad postings. And there was one more question I saw a few times. Oh, remote work. Quite a topic right now. We do have an environmental health and safety team that's monitoring the pandemic, and they're providing guidelines for all of our locations across the world. And they align with government directives. So it really depends on what the pandemic, what's the state of the pandemic at the time that you're going to start, on whether it'll be a remote or in person.
Mm-hmm. And I also saw questions about the length of the terms for student roles. And so if a position is posted with 8 months in the title, more often than not, they are looking for only students who have the 8-month opportunity. But some of them do say 4 or 8, so then it's flexible. And all of our roles do typically have the option to extend depending on like the headcount needs for the next term. So you can always discuss that with your manager should you secure a position with us. That's maybe a 4-month role, but you have 12 months, you can see if there's flexibility there to extend your term after the end of the term.
I also saw another question just regards to the hiring here. So in regards to our student positions, you do not have to be in a formal co-op. You just have to be enrolled in school while you complete the position with us.
I see a question about how long does it take for HR to review applications, and I was wondering if Sarika and Tom can provide some insight into the recruitment process on your end for screening candidates and reaching out.
Hi, this is Rita. So, in average, for full-time roles, ideally we try to screen max within 7 to 8 business days. But again, the next step is once we do the basic or first level screening, we forward the information to hiring manager. And what I have seen or observed at Blackberry, ideally hiring manager, they take another 7 to 10 business days. Again, this is like an average time frame that I have seen. But again, Tom might have something to add as well.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on, how many people, how many applicants are on these positions. Trying to schedule the interviews, there could be multiple interviews, multiple people involved, finding spots with them, it could take a while. So it's kind of hard to actually nail it down as to how long, but quick as we can. We aim to have somebody in the seat within 90 days from when it's posted. Sometimes it's a lot less, and sometimes it's a little bit more, depending on the skill set, if it's a hard to find skill set.
Thank you. And does someone want to answer from our team?
Yeah, so I think one thing that's worth noting at Blackberry, as opposed to some other companies that do this, they have a system that kind of pre-screens or will flag matching resumes. We don't use a system like that. It's all of our recruiters and our eyes screening all of your resumes. So with that being said, it does take a little bit longer on the campus side. We have a very high volume of resumes that come in generally all at once, but we only hire for a 3-month window every term. So our goal at this point for fall is to have all roles filled by November 30th. You will get an answer either way as you progress through it, but I would give your application a few weeks, just because it's only the 4 of us screening all the resumes, so it does take some time. But we do get through everything. We get through them all, so no concern if you're showing your resume stays in review. It does take us some time.
And I see some questions asking if you should be applying on your school portal or if you should apply on our website. And we'd like for you to please apply on our website, because that will go right into our view. That's where we do all of our screening. And we will just work with your schools to let them know if you are selected for an interview. They will be CC'd if you are in the co-op program, so they can add you to your system as well.
I saw another great question about, should we add references to our resume? No. And generally, I say that because, and you don't even have to wait, don't even waste a line saying reference is available upon request. Like, that's implied. If there is a reference check, we will ask you for your references. I say don't put the contact on there because you don't know who you're sending your resume to all the time, and you don't want to burn that bridge with your reference. You want to make sure that they're only going to be reached out to by the employer that you are in the offer process with. You don't want to be providing contact information to a bunch of people and not knowing who's calling them. It allows you to have control of when that reference gets the call.
Okay. Other questions? Do you need to include your transcript or provide your GPA average? Typically, no. If for student positions specifically, if a manager is looking for that, we will usually reach out and ask you to send that over.
I've seen a few questions about the application and the selection and the interview process and how it works. So really, like, brief overview for the student process. You will apply to the position, we'll review all the resumes. If you are selected for an interview, just again, we will contact you only if you are selected for an interview. And then the manager will generally give their decision in about 1 to 2 weeks after that. And then we go from there. Is it any different for the professional hiring, Tom or Sarika?
It is very similar. Like, we follow the similar process.
Okay.
These are some great questions, guys.
Yeah,
I'm just noticing the time here. We're at 1:59. So we'll just be mindful of that.
Maybe take 1 or 2 more.
There's a really good one here that I feel like we get a lot, and it's will if you have worked in another country, will we accept that experience? And absolutely yes. Please put that on your resume, put your education on your resume. We love to see past work experience no matter where it was because it's completely relevant.
Agreed.
Okay, does anybody have the final question? This one's just very quick. Is there any way to tell how many candidates you're taking for each position? Most of them will be one. There are just a couple with 3 or 2. So generally every position is posted, but there will be like a handful that have 3 positions. I'm not sure if you can tell that. It might be on the career page listed in the details section.
And one last question, and I think it's a good closing, kind of more of a statement, but do we hire first-term co-op students or give preference to upper years? And we absolutely hire first-term co-op students. I would say every term about half of our students are either in their first term or about in their first term, and the other half are more senior level. So we hire all different experience ranges, all different programs, all different schools, and technical and non-technical. So there's a lot of options.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right, let's wrap it up. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining our session today. We hope that you guys learned a lot. And if you haven't, make sure to fill out those surveys and provide your feedback. Ask any questions that you may have that are unanswered. This was our first virtual event, so we appreciate your patience with us navigating through it. And we hope that if you've registered for any of the remaining Blackberry Virtual Job Fair sessions, that you enjoy those as well. So we'll see you later this week if that's the case. But if not, have a great afternoon, and we appreciate all your interest. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Good luck in your job searches.
Jeez.